Spring clean that podcast feed and skip the doom scroll. The Newsworthy gets you caught up on the day's news in less than 15 minutes and gives you some fun conversation starters along the way. It's quick, friendly, and informative. Search The Newsworthy wherever you're listening now and follow or subscribe to The Newsworthy today.
Global stock markets are going through a particularly volatile time at the moment, and it can be a scary time for many of us who invest in shares, invest in companies around the world. And the reason is it feels like, for many of us, we're going through a particularly unprecedented time because of a particular president. But what if I told you that whilst the circumstances of today are unique, we've seen this all before? And the reaction you should take when these corrections in the market occur might not be what you expect. And that's why in this video, I want to share a story about my kids and a game they play called Dad Bingo, and what you can learn from markets about that experience, and why the Persians and the Stoics thousands of years ago can provide a real insight into Trump's tariffs and the impact on markets. Welcome to What Happens Next. I want to start this video with a story. We're in the UK 5 years ago and I'm sitting in my house. And the reason I'm sitting in my house is because literally we were in a COVID lockdown. Now, as a director of a financial planning business and a chartered financial planner, I had a number of balls that I was trying to juggle in that period of time. Number one, I was trying to be dad and trying to help my kids navigate what their lives meant during this period of lockdown. But I was also conscious that we really had to make sure that clients were okay in this period of increased volatility. So in lockdown one, I spent a lot of my time phoning my clients and making sure they were okay. My advice to them was the same as my advice to you today. My recommendation to my clients 5 years ago and my recommendation to you today is going to be the same. Doing nothing when there are periods of market volatility is often the best course of action. I get it. It can feel super scary when markets are volatile. But the reality is that we've seen market corrections, market volatility, time and time and time again. And certainly it's our job as financial planners to make sure that we help our clients navigate that volatility without being too scared, but also making knee-jerk decisions that are going to impact their longer-term financial plan. But what was interesting is how my kids reacted to that volatility. So at the minute, I'm spending a lot of time writing the What Happens Next book. I'm 50,000 words in as I speak to you today, and currently working to make sure that the book adds as much value as we can to people thinking about that next stage in their lives. Now, the book's not ready yet. It won't be out until sometime in 2025. I'm working hard to get it finished. But what you can do is sign up for the book waiting list, so you're one of the first people that gets access. You can simply do that by visiting whathappensnext.life/book. Join the waiting list today, and you'll be one of the first persons to get access to the book and some extra goodies when it comes out. Because we were all locked in at home. I was making calls from home, and even though my clients couldn't hear who I was speaking to, they heard my side of the conversation and realised that I repeated myself quite a lot. And what they did at the end of lockdown one, they thought it was hilarious, is on our fridge, they put up this thing called Dad Bingo. And when they'd heard me repeat a phrase, they had a tally sheet, and they used to tally the amount of times that I said a particular thing and how often I said it. According to them, the phrase that I use the most, apart from how you doing, is "this too shall pass." And the reason I use that phrase so much during lockdown was because I wanted to explain to my clients that when we're in periods of market volatility, when markets are going up and down and it feels really scary, the best thing you can often do is just ignore the noise, ignore the news sometimes, and just make sure that you're always focused on that longer term plan. Because there's a really important point I want to make. Volatility, market ups and downs aren't loss. You only lose when you cash out at a loss. Actually, if you're still in markets, you haven't physically lost any money. And I know it often doesn't feel like that, but that's the reality. So what's the best strategy when markets are volatile? If you're clear on your longer term strategy and you're working with somebody to help you with a longer term plan, absolutely nothing. And for many of us who have been investing for a long time, we've seen the market ups and downs. We've seen markets go down during the first months of COVID and quickly recover. We saw markets go down when the Russia and Ukraine wars started and then recover. And we've seen it historically. We saw the dot-com bubble crash and we saw Black Monday. We saw all of those things and know that short-term volatility doesn't equate to long-term loss as long as you don't make knee-jerk reactions to the markets. So I think the Persians were right. This too shall pass, and the Stoics were right. If we focus on what we can control, which isn't markets, but our attitude to markets, and also being really clear on what our longer term strategy is, we're going to be all right. I believe the worst thing you can do is react in a knee-jerk way to markets. And I'm sharing this video with all of my clients and all my professional introductions, but all of the What Happens Next community on YouTube, in a desire to ensure that you don't make any knee-jerk reactions that are going to negatively impact your longer-term financial plan. So understand that regardless of what Trump's doing and the news telling us that it's really important, we've got through things like this in the past when it comes to markets, and we do again. And as we reach the end of this video, I'm going to share 2 additional resources that I think are going to be really useful. In this video, I share why Stoicism can give you a real insight into planning for your retirement and whatever happens next, including the Stoic philosophy I've talked about today, focusing on what you can control. And in this video, I interview Pete Matthew, who talks about some of the concepts we've shared today. Hopefully that's been useful. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you next time on What Happens Next. Part of the issue we've got when we're thinking about what happens next in our lives is having the self-awareness, having the introspection to be able to think about what the gaps in our well-being are. And we're doing loads of work at the minute with What Happens Next to build solutions that are going to help you think about well-being in a nuanced way when you're thinking about how it applies to your life. One of the first things we've built that you can use today is our What Happens Next quiz. It's free to do, takes about 5 minutes, but what it will do is give you an insight into the areas of strengths when it comes to your well-being and the areas you might want to improve. You can take the What Happens Next quiz at whathappensnext.life/quiz, and I hope it helps you in your journey to work out what happens next for you.